Hey there! Today we're going to be talking about this ink. This is an ink Maria sent to me, and this is Montblanc Carlo Collodi. And this, I think, was one of the inks that tied in with one of the writer edition pens of Montblanc. Maybe I'm wrong, and in that case I'm not right. This is a brown ink, which I enjoy. It's a bit of an orange-like brown. It has an orange tinge to it, which I found quite pleasant. And it seemed to work well. There was just an issue with the flex pen. I couldn't really get this to work in a flex pen, but you know, it's a very interesting ink, I think. Nice shading, and I'm going to show you what this is all about. Okay, so here we go with Montblanc Carlo Collodi. Let's start with a bit of fine writing. My pen immediately stops. That's odd. It's for working fine just now. Fine. The quick brown fox had a long nose. A bit of medium writing. The quick brown fox had a long nose. So far I think what we are seeing is a light brown ink with a slight tinge of orange and pretty decent shading. Now I'm pulling out a broad nib. I think that should only increase the shading because it's also quite wet. Then we have an italic nib. And finally, a flex nib. No. Now you see there is almost no flow in the flex pen. And just see if I can grab the nib and feed on that pen, realign them a little bit. That should make the flex a little less pronounced, but it may also give some more flow. There we go. Yeah, except it doesn't. Very annoying. I can get no flow going. No, it doesn't work. This ink does not like flex pens. I'm sorry. Alright, then we have some passes to make. Maybe it's just a specific flex pen, maybe it's not the ink, but I mean, you see how easily it railroads and just stops. It is a noodless pen. It seems to take other inks fairly okay, but I may have to consider using another flex pen for these reviews, because I think this particular pen is a bit too finicky. Alright, then I think we should do some testing. So what we've got is, for example, some big writing, C for Carlo. Then we should do some normal writing with medium nib. Yes, I had to think about spelling there, but this is it, right? 1 N, 2 C's. I don't know. I think so. Alright. I think this is already drying. Yeah, looks good. Alright. Then let us do a second pass. There we go. And then I think, yep, that is dry. That means we can start with nothing else than the bastard brush. Which seems to eradicate the ink fairly efficiently, but we'll leave that to dry. How is this doing? Yep, that looks dry. That means we can have a look at the eyedropper of death. Alright, and then of course there is that moment you've all been waiting for, the Tardif test. And I cannot get any ink on the knife. It just flies off. So we'll have to leave it at this. I've got the feeling this is an extremely liquid ink, if that makes sense. It feels very thin, and I think that's one of the reasons the flex test fails. Alright, and then finally we have that very special moment, the Brown benchmark. Interesting benchmark. And I think that we can now do our third and final pass here. Alright. And then we can start to work on our scorecard. Let me just get rid of some excess water there. There we go. Clearly the blue thing was caused by the towel and not by the ink. Alright. Here's my little underlay thing. Here we go. Okay. A scorecard for this ink cleaning. Well, I haven't done that yet, but looking at how fairly easily it dissolves in ink, in water, I think this is not going to be an issue. I'm going to give it a 1 for ease of cleaning. Then we have bleed through. That is something we'll have to assess later. We have color. Well, that's an orangey brown. And then we have shading. Well, I would say shading is pretty good. Here you see the non-saturated and the highly saturated nib. You see some nice shading there. This is not perfect shading, but it's definitely shading going on. So I give this 2, 1 being excessive shading, 3 being no shading. Then we have flow. Flow seems to be good, except in that flex nib. Let me just try that once again, just to be able to say I've done everything I could. I'm really squeezing down drops of ink into the feed, so it should be highly saturated now. There we go. And there we got the railroading again. And then it just stops. And it's almost impossible to make it right again. No, this is not working out. Well, okay. Too bad. I cannot do flex with this ink. So flow seems to be good. I'm going to give that a 2 because it's, I don't know, something goes wrong with the flex nibs. But here we have feathering. Feathering I cannot see on this paper, but this is Rhodia. We should check again when I've done some copier paper. We have drying time. Well, I'm going to give that full marks on that account because it dries fairly quickly. It's still a bit wet there, but I mean this is already dry, so I think that's pretty good. Well, apparently that's not dry. Anyway, it dries quickly. I've seen much wetter and inks that take a long time to dry, so that's good. And then we have waterproofness. Well, that's a complicated one. As you can see with this fat writing, the water almost eradicates the writing. I mean, it's just a colored blob there. It's almost gone. Now you still see bits of the writing there, but large parts are also gone. So it's not terrible, it's not fantastic. I'm going to give that 2. Alright, then I want to see some copier paper, which I happen to have lying around. And I want to see some writing. I want to start with that fine nib. Notice how in the simple, regular, fine writing mode the pen works, I was going to say. It doesn't work either. Alright. Medium. Then we have broad. Italic. And finally, flexi. I'm very interested in what's going to happen now. Railroading. Because even when I go very slowly, I still get this railroading. Can hardly make it right. And it writes for a while if I squeeze some ink into the feed. And now we get some decent flow. And it just keeps flowing and flowing. and the flow is gone yet again, and there is still ink in there. Them darn dig bolts twisted up my ding dang hoots, nanny. No, it doesn't work. Well, there we go. Unfortunately, we do not get flex with this pen in any consistent manner. Pen/ink. Okay, then I want some really bold writing. There we go. Alright. Now, I want to see me some feathering, and I see it right there. Excessive feathering in the flex writing. This is copy of paper, but you know it's a lot of ink. When it comes to normal writing, even in the broad nib, I don't see a whole lot of feathering, but there is a little bit going on at the end of the letters. I'm not sure how well you can see that. It's minor, but it is there. Same goes for the. You see this I here, for example, at the lower bit there is a bit of feathering. However, it's not extremely pronounced, so I wouldn't. I mean, this is copy of paper, and this is laying down a lot of ink. When it comes to this super bold writing, there's not a whole lot going on. In the flex writing, it's excessive. So, to give us an idea, bleed through is excessive too in the flex writing. It's pronounced in the very broad writing, and you can even see it. Here's a broad regular nib. I see a lot of bleed through. Even in this fine nib, now this is not entirely realistic because I had to push fairly hard to get the pen to start. But even in the normal writing, I see bleed through, and this is not shade through, this is actual bleed through. Interestingly enough, nothing in the medium nib, and in the italic nib, not so much either. But in the fine nib, I mean, I really haven't exerted a lot of pressure there. So I'm not extremely impressed with the bleed through of this ink on this paper. Now on Rhodia there's a whole lot of bleed through, but even there, I don't know, is that the flex? Yeah, okay, so that is, we can't really take this seriously because that is a lot of pressure for the flex. This is 3 passes, the Brown benchmark, so there's not a lot of bleed through going on there. But I guess, I mean, it's always the issue with the bleed through is always that it depends on the paper, of course. But it's definitely not the most well-behaved ink I've ever seen. It's probably not the worst behaved either. I'm going to give that a conservative 2, somewhere in the middle. Feathering, well, that really depends on the pen, but I mean, on the pen and the nib, I'm going to give that a 2 as well. So what we've got here, I filled out everything, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 10, 12. Inkage score of 12. Which is not bad. Alright, now I'm going to use this bloody flex pen for the last time. Let me see if I can get something going here. So we have, I want to do a slight comparison. Now of course it doesn't write, why would it? Montblanc Carlo Collodi, and a bit of inkage going on. An ink I had to think of when I used this is Conway Stewart King Sand. There's an Inkcyclopedia entry on that by the professor. This ink, this doesn't write either, of course. It's completely predictable. I'm going to squeeze some into the feed there. Conway Stewart King Sand. Why did I pick this? It's a bit darker than the Carlo Collodi, although if you look at this I don't see a huge difference. But both are pretty well shaded. They're nicely shaded inks. And That's something I appreciate. So if you're looking for something like this, maybe a bit less orange and more on the brown side of the spectrum, and then you could consider this ink. And you know, that's pretty much all there's to it. So here we go. The coverage in the Inkcyclopedia entry for Montblanc Carlo Collodi. I hope this was useful, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.